Good morning. It's the morning of day 4, and we are camped on Wolf Lake. There's a bush plane flying in to Island Lake. Island Lake, as I think I mentioned, has some fly-in fishing camps. That bush plane is landing over on Island Lake, probably bringing some people in to fish or picking some people up who are there and taking them out. In any case, it's day 4. We didn't record a lot yesterday once we arrived on Wolf Lake. We spent the morning circling the lake looking for suitable campsites. We had an online map that showed that there were some established sites, but they were not in the locations that were indicated on the map, which is part of the fun. We had to find the sites. One site was on an island. It was nice, but it was a little small, and camping on islands isn't great. They end up getting heavily impacted if you're there for any duration more than a night. So we were going to be here 3, maybe 4 nights. We're not sure how long. So we chose this site here. This is the second spot that we visited, and it's just beautiful. It is south facing. I'm facing east right now, directly into the sunrise, but it gets lots of eastern sun in the morning on this rocky point here. That's south over there, and we even got to see the sunset over those trees over there. And I am going to take you around the site. So there was a great big messy fire pit over here, just a huge jumble of rocks. This is much bigger than anything we would ever make. And it was filled with, typical angling litter, fishing line, and tin foil. People like to fry their fish in tin foil and their baked potatoes and such, and they never pack out the tin foil. They always just leave it around. The animals get to it. So I picked up all the tin foil and burned it in the fire pit and then squashed it flat, and we'll try and pack that out before we leave. But it has a beautiful pointy rock out here that faces west, so we were able to spend the evening after we made camp here in front of the fire watching the sunset. It was a clear night. Stars were magnificent. There's my canoe over here, beached and tied. And as you can see, this area of the campsite, the ferns have been beat down and stuff like that, so you know that people have been here. There's no ground litter really, except for pine needles. All the firewood's been picked up and used, so this is an established site. We are in for a lot of rain in the coming days. Today should be the last rain-free day, but it's going to rain in the next few days. So what we decided to do is pitch our tent high so that it wouldn't get flooded. We're expecting something like 40 millimeters of rain the first day and then some more the second day. The tarp we pitched close by. And it's in a fairly high area, although not quite as high as the tent. We have a second tarp that we will stretch out. We built a little tiny fireplace, I should mention, so that we can, right here, I dug down through the duff, got all the combustible material away that was under there, laid down some big flat rocks here, so we can build a fire directly on rock, not on the ground, and we can build some small fires here and clear all of the pine needles that are around it away, burn all of those up, and then we'll be able to have our cooking fires here. We'll probably use a stove when it's raining, but if it gets cold and damp, it's nice to have a nice cheery warming fire, so we'll build a small fire here under the tarp. The tarp is guyed out in such a way that water will spill off on the ends. It won't bowl in the middle and then dump huge quantities of water onto our fire or onto us. We hung our food bag from a large white pine over in this direction that has some big dead horizontal branches. Right over here. A little closer than I would like, but anyway, maybe you can see the lines that we use there. That horizontal stick in the middle of the shot there, that's just holding my my zinget line that I use to haul up my bear bag. It's kind of a friction-free, no static line, makes hauling things up easily. And to our astonishment, we found over here, we didn't expect to find this out here, someone built a thunderbox, and it looks like it's never been used. There's nothing in it, or if it was used somewhere else, and they've moved it here, and it hasn't been used since. So that was a nice little surprise. So this was great. This is a nice established crown land site on a well-established, well-used route, but the site is quite clean, except for the fire pit. It's not overly impacted, and it's got beautiful views, beautiful sunny exposure, and we're able to nestle our tarp and our tent in the trees away from the open point. But when we want the open point, when we want to catch a breeze, when we want an open fire with a view, we can have that too. And there's my wife standing by the fire. We're just getting some water boiling for some morning coffee. And then we are going to head out in the canoe, and we're going to do some exploring along the adjoining portages to the adjoining lakes. And we're also on a quest for hardwood. It's going to be cold. We want to make some warming fires. We are definitely going to want to make some nice hot fires. And hardwood burns hot, but it doesn't burn long. And the hardwood, you won't burn through it so quickly. So we're hoping to find some of these maples. This whole forest was burned over years and years and years ago and has sprung back. And it's all a mix of white pines and red pines. The only maples that you'll see are fairly youngish new maples right along the shoreline. It's the only place that they can get enough light from the canopy of the conifers that dominate this entire area on this lake. So we're on a quest for some hardwood. So in anticipation of the very cool weather and heavy rains that we're going to have in the next couple of days, we are gathering some hardwood. There's very little hardwood on the stretch of coast that we're camped on. So we've taken the canoe and we have paddled out to other parts of the coast and to a little island where we found some standing dead maple. And we've been sawing it down, breaking it up into about paddle length or so. And we are filling the canoe with this to bring back to our camp. It's a lot of hardwood, and that will make it very, very easy to keep warm, because when we bring it back to camp, we will have to process it. And we won't do that all now. What we'll do is we will be processing it as needed, and that'll keep us warm. As they say, fire keeps you warm 3 times when you harvest it, as we're doing now. Keeps you warm when you're processing it in anticipation of burning it, and then when you're burning it. So that's what we will be doing. We're just going to bring this back to camp, dump it off, let it sun dry a little more, and then we're going to take a trip to Boundary Lake. We're going to cross the portage and explore Boundary Lake today, because it looks like our work here is done. Nice work.
We're at the takeout now from Wolf into Boundary. Here comes Martin. You can see the ATV trail. Too much more of this and the portage will be unusable.
So here we are exploring Boundary, and we want to explore Boundary for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's not a dead end. There are portages into another lake at least. And it's an interesting lake. It's not one of those big, round, windy lakes that's kind of featureless. This is a lake that has a lot of structure from the takeout, or rather from the put-in, where we just put into this lake. There are these radiating arms in different directions. So there are all these long bays to explore, and that makes it really, really nice and interesting. And as I said earlier, we want to see if we can find a good campsite or potential bush site for a future visit, or maybe even this visit. I don't know. It's only day 4, and we've got over 9 days of food, so we might yet come here and make camp here. So that's what we're doing today. We're just exploring all the many bays and inlets of this really scenic little lake. Actually, it's not little, it's big. But there's no big windy areas, so it's easy paddling. And it's really secluded. Like, we've seen some old fire rings from way back in the day. Some anglers made a shore lunch or something like that. But we haven't found any campsites yet, so this is not overly impacted. And what's nice about this is that because it's such a short portage from Wolf into this one, once you've made the portage into Wolf, heck, you might as well come here. So I'm thinking maybe we will. Just a matter of finding a nice spot.
This spot on Boundary Lake proved to be suitable for a campsite or a return visit, but we wanted to return to our camp before finishing exploring the lake, to which we would return another day, because we wanted to be able to enjoy a swim.
How's the water?
It's cool. It's a little bit cool.
That late
Lovely.
September water's not too cold, eh?
It's colder out there, I think.
You're a crazy woman. You may have noticed that this video is this trip log is a little bit short on talk about food. We haven't shown you what we had for breakfast, where we stopped for lunch and what we had for lunch, the snacks that we brought along the way, what we ate for supper, and so forth. And that's because we don't do any of that. We eat one meal a day and we have coffee in the morning. And that's it. And the reason that is because we are on a low carbohydrate, high fat, moderate protein diet, which is highly satiating. That is, it's very satisfying. It doesn't leave you hungry. If you eat a lot of carbohydrates, that tends to leave you hungry. So you eat and then you're fed for a while, your blood sugar goes up, but once that passes, you're left hungry again. Your blood sugar goes down and you get hungry again. So on this kind of diet, you can easily get by on one meal a day without feeling hunger throughout the day. So there's no need for breakfast, no need for lunch, no need for snacks. We don't do that. This is how we live all the time. We've been doing this for about 2.5 years, but it has been a kind of a revelation to us of the advantages that kind of way of eating has for canoe camping or backcountry camping in general. We didn't expect that. You may have noticed at the beginning of the video when I showed what we were bringing, I said we're bringing 2 paddles, we're bringing 2 PFDs, and 2 canoe packs. Okay, this is a 75-liter canoe pack. There was no food barrel, there was not an extra pack for our food or anything like that, right? And that's because our food fits handsomely in the bottom of one of these canoe packs. Okay, this is it. This was 16 pounds, and this is about the volume of what we brought. Okay, now it's actually, we've been eating for 4 days now, so the volume has gone down a little bit. So we have our luxury item. This is all just single malt scotch, 3 small flasks of single malt scotch that we brought with us. But my wife put that in the bag to show you what the original volume was. A lot of this volume doesn't go down because there are all these containers, Nalgene containers and so forth, that take up a lot of space. So the point is, this, starting to rain again. The point is that this kind of diet is practical from the standpoint of packing. Very low volume. It's fairly lightweight when you consider that this was food for 2 adults for 11 days. This is between a 7 and 9 day trip, but we thought we might be able to extend it. We didn't know how long we were going to stay exactly. This is 11 days of food for 2 adults. Okay, 16 pounds fits in these 2 bags inside of one of those. So we think that's pretty great. The other advantage, of course, is that you're eating only once a day, so you don't have to get your morning off to a late start because you've got to prepare breakfast. You don't have to pack a lunch to bring with you. You don't have to especially prepare lunch during the day or take time out for it. You don't have to stop on the trail or on the portage or while you're paddling to have a snack or anything like that. We don't do any of that. We don't bring any of that. That's why this is such a small quantity of food. But it is highly calorically and nutritionally dense food. It's very rich food this way. So it's very satiating. It packs small, and you just don't have to waste a lot of time in a day with meal prep. right? We kind of luxuriate over supper because it's a nice big meal. It's going to be our one big meal of the day. We take our time making it, but we didn't waste tons of time during the day preoccupied with food, when we were going to eat and where are we going to, find a place to eat. And there's no dishes to do, right? I mean, there's no breakfast dishes, no lunch dishes, or any of that stuff. There's just supper dishes at the end of the evening. It's that easy. Now, if you're not on this kind of diet already, you can't just suddenly decide, hey, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to try a very low-carb, high-fat, moderate protein diet and bring that kind of food into the bush and eat only once a day. That's not going to work, and that's because you have to train your body to this. It takes a while to get fat adapted because in the modern Western diet, it's loaded with carbohydrates, and most of the fuel that we burn all day long is blood sugars, glucose. And so you fill your face with a lot of carbohydrates, your blood sugar goes up, you've got lots of energy, you feel great, your body uses that up, and then you go through a crash, and then you get hungry again, or you need a nap in the middle of the day, and so forth, and then you have to keep eating throughout the day because when your blood sugar goes up and down like that, you end up craving food again throughout the day. When you're on this kind of diet, your body quickly learns to do what it's made to do, and that is to burn the fat that's on your body and to burn the fat that's coming in. Right? Fat is coming in and out of your cells all the time. So when you're on this kind of diet and for a little while and your body is fat adapted, your body is used to burning your own body fat, and it's used to burning dietary fat that you take in. So we went on this diet for health reasons. We feel a lot better on this diet, and we wanted to lose some weight, which worked wonders, but now we're completely stable at this weight. We're not losing any weight on this diet. It's just fine with us. But it was a kind of revelation, as I said, that it has so many advantages for camping. But don't think that you can just go out and try this. You have to, if you're interested in eating this way, you have to sort of try it at home, live this way for a little while. But if you are interested in this kind of diet, or if you've been on one of these kinds of low-carb, high-fat, moderate protein diets, also sometimes called a ketogenic diet, then you can do this when you're camping. You don't have to cheat. You don't have to bring ramen noodles and sauces that are filled with sugars and pour it all over your pasta and rice and stuff like that. You can eat the way you normally eat at home, and you can get by on one meal a day, save all that bulk, save all that weight, save all that time in a day with meal prep, and you don't have to bother with dishes or any of that stuff. Anyway, I thought I would recommend this to you in case any of you were curious about how we're able to pack so light and so small for what could have been up to an 11-day trip, and why we weren't showing us eating meals throughout the day. Hope this helps. So I mentioned that we have coffee in the morning, and coffee in the morning, 1 cup each, constitutes our entire breakfast, and we don't have lunch or snacks, so this has to satisfy us until supper, and it does, but we make our coffee a little bit differently than most people do. It's very, very easy though. So what goes in the coffee, honey?
We put a teaspoon of Nescafe.
Okay.
And for yours, a teaspoon of cocoa powder, because he likes a little chocolatey in it, mocha. And
that's unsweetened cocoa, right?
Unsweetened, absolutely. There's no sugar in our diet
right.
at all. And then we put about a tablespoon of coconut oil. Extra virgin coconut oil has a slight bit of sweetness and a coconutty taste that really adds something. And the coconut oil adds a richness. And if you can stir it up a bit, it thickens it. It
right.
thickens the coffee.
Yeah.
It kind of gives it a creamy texture.
Right. Oh, and that stuff is solid, by the way. It's not liquidy or runny or anything like that. It's a solid. Look. Yeah.
Right. And in mine, I like a little bit of salt. It cuts the bitterness of the Nescafe in a similar way that sugar does, actually. And we actually just like a bit of extra salt in our diet. It makes us feel better.
Right.
Makes me feel better anyways. And I put a little bit in Martin's too, but more in mine.
Right. And we're having a second cup today because it's cold and wet and
rainy. Well, it's not that cold, but it's very, very damp and wet and windy and rainy. And we're stuck for a big chunk of this day under the tarp by the fire anyway, so why not have a second nice rich cup of coffee? All right, that's how we roll.
Good morning. It's about, what is it, 8 o'clock?
No.
8 a.m.?
7:30.
7:30 a.m. This is the morning of day 5. As you can hear, it's pouring rain outside with some light winds. Yesterday was a great day. It was beautiful, clear, sunny skies, light winds. We spent the day exploring Boundary Lake, which is such a big lake. We only explored half of it, looking for campsites and just taking in the scenery before we had to come back, because at this time of year, mid to late September, the days are short. 7:30 is sunset, so we had to come back in time to try to do a little fishing, and we had no luck. Got a couple of bites, but didn't catch anything. Wanted to get a swim in so that we could bath ourselves. This time, I actually went in the lake. It wasn't too bad. I wimped out needlessly the other day. And then what did we do? We had supper, I guess. Yeah, we made supper. Oh, no, and we prepared for this coming rain. We battened down the hatches. So all of the wood that we had collected yesterday, all that hardwood, that maple that we collected, we put under another tarp. I have a second tarp. It's a sill nylon emergency poncho / tarp shelter. I set that up so that we could cache all of our wood there. So that's all set up. Maybe I'll show that later. And batten down the hatches on the tarp in the tent just to keep all the rain out. We had a nice dry night in here. It's been raining on and off all night, and it's going to be raining on and off all day. We're hoping for a few...
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow. And we're hoping for a few breaks in the rain today so we can get outside and maybe do some fishing and,
I think
paddling.
we're supposed to get 70 millimeters of rain over the next 2 days.
The forecast just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
It's a flood.
It's a flood, yeah. So anyway, that's on the agenda now. So now I've just gotten dressed and I'm about to go outside and start a twig stove fire and put on some coffee. All right, we're up and out of the tent. It has stopped raining for a while. The forecast says we got a few hours, maybe an hour and a half rain free, so we thought we'd take advantage of that to get up and get some coffee on the twig stove going here. Got the old Firebox Nano going.
Looks like it's running out.
Yeah, actually, could you put some twigs in there? I've been neglecting it. All right.
It's a bit of a harder one. Not too long, eh?
Nah, it's fine. One more?
We don't.
About 5 knots in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Really coming down.
Yeah. One of the problems Martin and I have always had with off-season camping, spring, fall, and just poor weather camping is that I have a medical condition called Raynaud's syndrome. It's under normal circumstances at home. It's not very serious. I get a little damp, and I have problems with my circulation, that can cause my fingers to go a little numb. But when we're out and can't get in a warm, dry place, my fingers and toes will go completely white, and I won't be able to use my hands at all. All of my fingers basically just become dead meat. I can't button my buttons, I can't zip up, I can't handle pots, and it's kind of a scary feeling as well. I had real problems with this in the past, and so it sometimes turns me off when I see a lot of rain in the forecast, because I'm quite afraid of becoming damp for long periods of time and being unable to take a hot bath. We skip a lot of trips because of that, and it makes us unhappy, but it's just what happens. But this trip was going to be the last trip of the season. We were supposed to get some fantastic weather. It was supposed to be a heat wave for the whole trip. But the weather all changed once we got here, and we only had a couple of warm days, and then right slap dab in the middle of the trip, there was suddenly a torrential rainstorm that was going to last for 2 days. We're literally supposed to get 70 millimeters of rain from last night to tomorrow night. But it's right in the middle of the trip. We would have had to leave on day 4 of a 9-day trip, and I just couldn't bear it, since it's probably going to be our last summer trip, and there are a few good days left at the end of this. So Martin said he could keep me warm and dry, and I trust him. You know, he's my he always does. When he says he can, he always does. And so this is the setup that he's created. We spent most of yesterday, or probably half of yesterday, collecting a ton of hardwood. All underneath that tarp is hardwood, and then we created, well, Martin mostly, set up this tarp, which is a big enough space for both of us and to do our cooking, and he built a beautiful fire pit. Do you want to say something about the hardwood and the fire pit, Martin?
Sure. Well, the reason we use hardwood is because it is a slower burning wood. It releases more heat. It produces very, very hot coals. If you use soft wood, you'll burn through that wood very, very quickly, and you'll have to keep feeding the fire constantly. You won't get that slow burn. Also, resinous woods from conifers like pines and things like that. That resin boils and pops and explodes and shoots up these hot coals and embers. When you're under a tarp like this, you can't afford to have that. So hardwoods like this, tend not to spit embers. And when they do, they don't spit them very far. So it's much better all around. The tarp setup, it's high and, well, it's set up like a lean-to, so there's a sloping wall here and then a kind of sloping roof overhead. So this sloping part wall down here serves as a wind wall that protects us against the wind and driving horizontal rain that we had earlier. The sloping roof ensures that the water runs off of it at an angle. So I've got a high end and a low end. If ever you're going to have anything like a lean-to, you've got to make sure that the roof overhead is angled, low at one end and high at the other end, so the water runs off. If you don't, it'll puddle in the middle and it'll just pour down. The fire pit that we built, this is a much bigger fire pit than we would ordinarily build, but we wanted something that would capture heat. So I built a hearth. So this stone down here is a hearth stone. It's a big flat rock that I put down. It prevents the ground from catching on fire, and all the stone around it absorbs that heat, and it acts as a thermal mass, so it heats the underside of the shelter really, really well. So the underside of the tarp is bone dry. We're nice and toasty warm here because of the nature of this. If we built a simple fire ring, it wouldn't have that effect to anywhere near the same degree. And then these logs I put down here behind, because I've got my fire pit right at the edge of my tarp, and we were expecting, well, first 40, then 50, and now 70 millimeters of rain. If we get a big rain like that, runoff from this rock here could pour down here into this area under the tarp. So I put these logs here
to direct and channel the rainwater down the hill. Actually, if you look here, there's no rain on the fire, but my pot up here is just outside the drip line of my tarp, and it's got water on it. So this worked out really well.
And it has kept me dry, and not just dry, but warm. I am not damp at all. I haven't had a moment of rain odds, and it's been raining now for, oh, I don't know, 16 hours? Yeah. Since last night? Yeah, something like that. And I haven't had a moment of numbness in my fingers. I'm totally cozy beside this fire. Thank you.